key principle of regenerative agriculture is minimizing soil disturbance. And the reason we want to do that is we want to have as stable a soil ecosystem as possible. When we have a stable soil ecosystem that's being well fed through the plant material that is growing in that system, we optimize biology, we optimize conditions for that biology to prosper, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to increase the bacterial and fungal and total biomass in that system. The systems of agriculture that we inherited from our European background, it has got disturbance very much at its core. So ploughing the soil, tilling the soil, preparing seed beds is very much part of the way that we used to do agriculture. And that worked reasonably well in the young soils of Europe that are much more resilient to disturbance, principally because of their high carbon contents. We take a system like that and we apply it to an Australian context where soil carbon isn't so high, where humification potential is generally lower in our soils. And when we start disturbing these soils, we see a precipitous drop in soil carbon. And that's what characterises so much of the Australian landscape post-clearing. So our aim, turning that around and looking at how what kind of systems are going to be most suited to an Australian context, means we need to look at how we can minimise disturbance. Disturbance is necessary sometimes. You've got to, as this old saying goes, you've got to crack an egg to make a cake, and that's okay, so long as our follow-up actions are going to build on that action. For example, if we're going to sow a pasture, do we want to put compost into that pasture at sowing? Are we sowing plants that have deep root systems? Are we managing a system that's going to accumulate a lot of carbon after that disturbance event? In this paddock where we're standing now, where we have a huge diversity of plant material in this landscape, and much of this diversity was sown into a perennial pasture using a soil key machine. This can equally be done using conventional sowing equipment. The point here is that the amount of disturbance that this paddock experienced was really minimal. So whether you're planting an annual species or a perennial species, minimizing disturbance is going to maintain soil function, because we're essentially not turning the house upside down. We're not destroying the habitat and the pore structures that the soil organisms have constructed. So when soils are disturbed, one of the principal things that happens is that the soil carbon is brought into more intimate contact with the soil microbes. This means that it's more available to microbial breakdown. Similarly, some of the protections in the soil of soil carbon are lost. Disturbance of soil can result in a precipitous drop in soil carbon. When we lose soil carbon, we lose the central energy source in the soil that drives most biological processes. Soil carbon is the fuel that drives the soil's economy. It's the cash for the soil's economy. And we want the soil carbon to be at high levels in the soil, and we want it to be turning over. Just like during times when the economy is going well, cash is turning over very fast, everybody's spending. On top of the food pyramid in the soil, we have the humble earthworm, who's busy making macropores in the soil. But below the earthworm, in the barely visible or invisible realm, are a host of other soil organisms that are moving soil around, that are rearranging, that are burrowing, that are moving through the soil, helping stick the soil together. And this is what promotes structure, opportunity for rooting depth, improved nutrient cycling, and, in summary, soil health. So the soil on this farm is a clay loam, and the real advantages of a clay soil is its fertility and its water holding capacity. The downside of a clay soil is its vulnerability to compaction, resistance often to drainage, and so we often struggle to get really good structure in clay soils. And clay soils need a lot to help change, and they need a lot of organic matter. They can soak up so much organic matter, and they need so much organic matter to give us really nice tilth and nice structure. And what we're seeing here with management of compost and everything else, that's contributing really strongly to that. But the main activity here is a not doing activity. So this is a zero-till system where disturbance of the soil is completely minimized, with the exception of broad forking after each crop. Now, some might say this is a relatively easy thing to do in a market garden scale like we're doing here, but it's completely impractical in a large commercial vegetable production. And this is where, I guess, regenerative agriculture is challenging every scale of production to say, how can we apply these principles, or how can we move towards application of these principles at large scales? And one of the ways that some of the larger growers are doing that is in the use of strip tilling on vegetable beds. So the bed doesn't get reformed, but the area where the plants are going to be sown is a small area in the bed that does see some tillage. And this has multiple benefits. Not only does it allow us to get our crop in or sow our seeds, but it really minimizes that bulk disturbance of the soil, which, as we've talked about, ruptures fungi, breaks down the delicate pore network that the soil depends on to breathe and to drain, and allows improvement in soil structure to develop over the long term.